Thank you for joining us today. My name is Juliana Hudson, and with us is His Excellency the President Donald Ramotar. Thank you for joining us. We would like to discuss some of the current issues that are making the news, topics that are in the media and in the public domain. Chief among them is the Amaila Hydro project. As of Thursday, July the 18th, the Parliament met to discuss some of the legislation to move the project forward. And unfortunately, that didn't quite go as the public had hoped. What are your thoughts on what transpired on Thursday?
Well, as I said in my statement, what transpired on Thursday could be described as being one of the dark days in this country. Because you know that for a long time, I think it has been accepted that part of the reason that we have not been developing as faster than we are at this point in time is the fact that we do not have cheap enough energy so that we can attract investments in processing of our agricultural products, so that we can sell more finished products, that we can build a strong manufacturing sector where we can create thousands of jobs for Guyanese, and we can generate a lot more economic activity to take our country to another level of development. Over the years that we have been in government, you know that we have taken the country within the ruins, and we have repaired and fixed those infrastructure. But to go to another level, to take our country to being a developed country status, it is necessary to put new infrastructure in place so that our country will have the capacity to absorb investment and to go to what I will call a developed country status. And cheap energy is key to that strategy of getting there. Therefore, what occurred last Thursday in Parliament was indeed a body blow to the economic and social development of our country and of the welfare of the people of Guyana. Because as I mentioned again in my statement, this is a project that will have an impact on a positive impact that is, on every single Guyanese. And to shoot it down like that, it's really, I find it hard to find the right words to describe it. To say that it is really a dark day for our country.
What is the reason that was offered? What is the reason offered for having denied the bill passage?
Actually, no reason was offered by the opposition. I see the opposition press is now trying to find reasons and trying to probably manufacture it. Instead of them encouraging us to manufacture goods and services, they're manufacturing propaganda. But the opposition itself has not offered any strong any reasons in Parliament, and this is really unbelievable that with such a project that not a single opposition member got up to speak. That in a minimum shows a lot of arrogance and a lot of contempt for the people of this country, that they're voting against a project with such great potentials and not to give a single word of explanation in the Parliament says a lot. Afterwards, I think I heard that the AFC making some statements about it. But this is one project I do not think that should be held up for political blackmail. Because everyone, as I said, in this country got to gain from it. And we have given to the opposition and to the public at large a lot of information on this project, because this project has been around for a while, and now it is at this crucial stage to go ahead to the phase of beginning to construct.
Well, as you mentioned that you've been providing information on the project for a while now. One of the common complaints that you hear from the opposition, the joint opposition, is that there hasn't been transparency in the manner in which the project was developed and executed. What are your thoughts on that?
That does not stand up to any kind of scrutiny. Almost every single project that we went to the public with, or we are engaging in, have been in the public domain. It has been publicly advertised, bids have been publicly opened, awards have been made public about who was awarded the contract and what was the price. All of the projects, if you examine them, the exception of one, and that was the Cherry Dragon Airport expansion, and that was because the vice premier from China was visiting Trinidad, meeting with CARICOM leaders at the time, and we were expected to go with the project. So a lot of the work was done internally by technical people from the Ministry of Works, and there was not enough time to go to the public with that one before. So that was the only exception of all the projects that we had. All the other projects have been publicly advertised and publicly awarded.
Forgive me, but what is the reason behind not having it publicly disclosed if the vice premier?
It was not publicly disclosed. Not a question of publicly disclosed. The time for publicizing, advertising for the contracts and so forth was not there because of the meeting that we were going to. We had to present the project to the Chinese government through the vice premier of China, and as a result of that, time was not available. That was the only reason.
Okay. The other concern that they've had in regards to transparency is that the information is only made after the fact.
That is totally not true.
What do you think is their reason for making these claims of
I think
lack of transparency?
No, I think they're probably trying to find a way to create the impression that there is no transparency in this country, which again, as I tell you, it doesn't stand up to any scrutiny. If I can just tell you that what we have introduced into this country when we came into the government that did not exist, actually procurement or projects, nothing was advertised. It was just decided by the government, either the then president or the cabinet. Auditor General's report were not made. The Auditor General was not allowed to do his work. Mr. Gulzaran can testify to that. He himself has made a public statement to that regard. Since we've gotten into the government, we have not tried to hide anything. Every single year, the Auditor General reports goes to the National Assembly. It doesn't go through the Minister of Finance anymore. It goes directly to the National Assembly. And then the National Assembly, through the committee of the Public Accounts Committee, examine that document, interrogate a lot of the accounting officers, and they make a report. And in the end, the Ministry of Finance gives the Treasury memorandum laying out what we're doing to deal with some of these reports. And there has been enormous improvements in that regard since we've gotten into the government. But when you listen to some of the criticism in the media, then you would think that there has not been any progress in this field. It is like comparing night and day, that the distance that we have gone and covered in transparency. In the public accounts, within the whole question of procurement, every single thing is as I just mentioned to you. The government of Guyana, the cabinet of Guyana, has the least power when you compare it with the rest of the Caribbean, and for that matter, probably with the rest of the Commonwealth, or most of the Commonwealth. Where the other governments the cabinet got the power to award contracts. All we are doing is saying that the government should have a no objection in that regard. Just saying that we've given up our power to award contracts, but we want to retain the power to give a no objection. Since in the final analysis, if we are to be held responsible for these things, that is the minimum that we can have in order to ensure that everything is being done in a proper way.
And it is that the opposition does not want to allow the cabinet
To have,
that opportunity.
yeah, as I said, in my view, it's a totally reasonable proposal on our part, because we, unlike all the other governments in the region and most in the Commonwealth, that where the cabinet have the power of award, we are only asking for the power to give a no objection.
Okay. And so this is one of those issues that the joint opposition is using as to trade, so to speak.
Well,
and is this what is affecting?
It was some of these things that I was thinking about when I was preparing to speak on what happened last Thursday. That we are all ready for compromise and to talk, to have give and take. But you have to make a distinction between compromise and blackmail.
Mm-hmm.
You can't work on the basis, I think all of us will have to begin with by saying that all of us must take the interest of our people and our country and make that a priority. And we can, like for instance, you talk about the Public Procurement Commission, that's an area we can talk about and try to make compromise, where I think that we are ready to make compromise, and we think our position is reasonable. The opposition, I think, will not be doing a disservice to the nation by giving us the no objection.
Mm-hmm.
But to say that if you don't vote for this, that we will not vote for Amaila, a project, is to my mind a political blackmail that I cannot accept. I'm ready to work on compromise, but I can't work with political blackmail.
What does this mean to the common man, to the average Joe, so to speak? Well, Amaila not coming on stream, or
a lot.
It's not that it's not coming on stream, but now that it's being in jeopardy.
In jeopardy, that's the word I use. It means a lot. A lot. First and foremost, it is estimated by many experts that people will have a reduction in their electricity bills by minimum of a quarter could come off.
Mm-hmm.
One. Two, from the point of view of the country, we will be saving billions of dollars in the importation of fuel. Right now, the single biggest import that we have is the importation of fuel to generate electricity. That money could be saved. It could go into social projects. It could go into anti-poverty projects. It could go into other investment in other very important infrastructural development. So it's a huge amount of money that we can have at our disposal as a country to do things, other things, to lift the level of development and the quality of life within the society itself. Secondly, as I mentioned at the opening, cheap electricity is vital for the development of manufacturing sector. It could create thousands of jobs, and not only like services job, but very highly paid jobs. It will stimulate the quality of our working people to make them more strongly technical. So it has a huge, for people in agriculture. They can instead of selling the raw products, they can be selling processed products,
mm-hmm.
and they can have a higher income, not only by creating new jobs to do these things, but they can have products to sell even when things are out of crop. So it has really, really enormous possibilities, and touches everyone's life. Everyone would be better off with this project.
So where do we stand now?
Well,
What
And
is
I
government's
mentioned
position?
we have to, we are still working to keep the other partners on board. We will probably know in the not too distant future about all of that. But we are not giving up. We are working feverishly on this issue. Um, we will be doing everything that we possibly can to save the project and to go forward. And I hope that the opposition will understand more. I don't know if it's a lack of understanding on their part, but if they still do not understand the positive impact that this will have, again, I'm ready to make available technical staff at the disposal of the government to go through it with them again, so that they can, if what we did was not enough, but I think it is, but if that's not enough, we're still ready to do it all over again to get this project on stream.
Okay. Over the weekend, Minister Rupson-Ben, Minister of Works, announced that there is the Chadijagan International Airport Expansion Project is also in jeopardy as a result of budgetary cuts that were made to the project. Could you shed a little light on that for us, please?
Well, that is true, that payments were supposed to be made, but it couldn't be made. It was in the budget, it was cut. So that's another area we have to look and see how we will work and get that.
So that's two projects so far being jeopardized.
I think that is that project is another project that is vital for our development as well. Because I remember very well, it was I think in 1993 or 1994, when I went to South Africa for the first time, that the then foreign minister of our country, Clement Rowe, he asked me to raise with the ANC, because at that time apartheid was not officially over. And he asked me to raise with the ANC, to ask them what will be their attitude if we allow the South African airlines flying from South Africa to the United States to stop in Guyana to refuel and in transit here. He wanted to know, because of the fact that apartheid was not yet over, he wanted to know what the attitude of the South African ANC would have been, because we had and still have fraternal relationship with them. So when I asked them, they eventually agreed, but the deal could not come on stream because our airstrip was too short. Which tells us that we have an enormous, where we are located geographically, it's almost in the middle of the northern and southern hemisphere, which can allow us to use our location to become a very important hub for the region, flying to Africa, flying to Asia. Instead of having to go up north and fly back down south, we can do it from right here. But we can make Guyana into a big hub, an international hub like Panama is at this point in time. And it can be a very important hub, which will earn us a lot more money, bring more people to our shores, develop the whole tourism sector, which that's another sector that has great possibilities for growth. And it will, of course, to do that we have to have not only a longer airport, but we have to have a modern airport as well, to a high standard airport, a world-class airport, and that is what this project is.
I see.
So we are going to continue to also work to ensure that that project comes off.
Now, the opposition's concern there is one of two main points that they've been bringing out was the relocation of the squatters in the neighborhood, that they have to be relocated, and that there is no consultation that's being done with them in an effort to get that process moving.
I don't think not so long ago the airport authority people and the Ministry of Works had a press conference where they addressed most of those things, and where they pointed out to the extent that they're going as far as consultation and so forth are concerned. Um, what is what is rather what seems to be happening is that the opposition seems to be wanting to jump on all of these things to create issues and problems. They're not being very constructive and not demonstrating to the Guyanese people that they have a developmental plan,
Mm-hmm.
but they are being more disruptive of these type of activities. When, as I said, only recently in the media, the airport authorities explained to the extent that they're going with consultation, what they're doing, what they're offering. Um, so it's totally untrue, and it's just clearly another fig leaf that is being used for being disruptive and being uh, anti-development, to put it mildly.
Okay. And I think their second concern is the extent to which the project, the scope of the project. I believe they were making one reference to the number of air bridges that are being created, saying that there are too many. Other countries in the Caribbean do not necessarily have as many air bridges.
I think that
What are your
we have
thoughts?
to broaden our vision. If, as I envisage that we, with these new infrastructural projects, and there are many others too that we are working on, all of these together, some of these individually, got the potential of really taking us to another level of development. And I've envisaged that the time will come when we will be a developed country.
Mm-hmm.
Um, we have to, we should not confine our thinking to think only about Liat coming here and so forth. As I said, we are strategically located geographically. And we can see that if we have the facilities, if we put the facilities in place, what we can attract to this country. And I think that is what they're missing. They're only basing their analysis on what exists today.
Okay.
They don't see that if we have the facilities, how this can be expanded and how it can grow at a fantastic rate.
And I think that ties in very nicely to the development of the Marriott project.
Yeah.
Bringing on a five-star hotel would obviously attract more tourism,
Yeah.
attract more visitors, and so therefore the use of the new airport.
Yeah, of course.
Would
I mean,
be
all of these
more
things
relevant.
complement each other in taking us forward to a better life for our people, a better, higher quality of life for our people, generating more income so that we can spend more on social welfare, on fighting poverty and so forth. And the Marriott itself is a very important project in building tourism within our country. It's an important brand to have in our country in the first place. And in the second place, it is badly needed. Just imagine that if when we find oil in this country, which all the experts are saying that in another 10 years, that we could be a major player in the oil and gas sector of our country. Just imagine the need that we will have for accommodation in Guyana. We will need much more than one Marriott. We will need more than one Marriott probably in more than one region of our country to deal with these things. So the Marriott, I think, too, is a very important project. And that's another project that has been coming under a lot of criticism. But let me see that it was publicly advertised. The Marriott people were here when we turned the sod. The press was invited. And some of the same press that were invited there to witness the turning of the sod are the ones that are talking about secret deals and so on and so forth. All of which doesn't hold water. I myself offered the opposition to also bring the technical people to talk to them if they had any doubts about it, to make presentation to them. I told them whenever they're ready, any one of these projects, that we are ready to give them a full presentation by the technical people on these projects as well.
Okay.
So we have nothing to hide. These are very open projects. These are there, and we think we are pursuing them because we see the enormous benefits they can bring to the country as a whole, and to the fact that they can affect the lives of ordinary people in a significant way.
Someone was mentioning the other day that there is, if we can make the Marriott project go ahead, we do not need legislation to help with the funding of the Marriott project. Why is it that the same cannot be done about Amaila?
Well,
do you want to explain what the difference between the two of them are?
What we're doing with Amaila too is that this is a private sector, it's a boat project, build, operate, and transfer project. And a lot of money will be invested into this project. Not necessarily our money. Our money that we're investing on the road will become part of the equity of that project. But the people who will be putting their finances in it, the people who will be building on it and so forth, they need a guarantor that the money would be safe. Like any other business you do, you need a guarantor. The government is lifting its ceiling because it is prepared, because of the importance of this project, to give a guarantor on the money that will be borrowed to construct.
So does that mean that the country is now indebted to the project?
No, this is not the country's debt, but the country is going to guarantee the lenders. We're going to guarantee to the Chinese Development Bank that is putting up the money that we have to put up, the IDB, to put up that guarantee for them.
Okay.
It's not a debt that the country is contracting.
How does that contrast with the Marriott?
The Marriott
is different.
The Marriott is a different project. We're getting in also some. Look, in our region, sometimes we have to stimulate some of these investments. Look in Trinidad, the Hyatt, it was built by the government, still owned by the government. The Hilton, built and owned by the government, because they wanted to attract tourism and business in their society, oil and gas country and so forth. In Barbados, the government of Barbados financed the project. We are also here doing the same thing in stimulating investment in this area. At the end of the day, we can sell our shares. We can decide what we want to do. But these are things that would be very beneficial to the Guyanese public.
There's also been a lot of talk in the media regarding local government elections. Can you explain to the public what is going on with local government elections?
Well, let me remind you, first of all, that it is this government that fought to bring back local government elections in our society. That we didn't have local government elections since 1970 until 1994. And we wanted to have local government elections on a regular basis. The only reason we didn't have it after 1994 is the fact that it coincided with the general elections in 1997. And in the aftermath of that election, there was not even an elections commission left in place. So the elections could not have been held. The next elections commission was set up to run the 2001 elections, the Joe Singh Commission. And after that, that commission also went out, and a new one had to be set up. It took some time to have it established. In the meantime, the Constitution was rewritten. We have a new Constitution rewritten by the broadest type of consultation that they had, by the widest possible participation. And that Constitution said that we should have the next time we have local government elections, it should be on a different basis to what we had in 1994. But they didn't flesh it out.
Okay.
So that was left to negotiations. The negotiations took quite a long time, I must admit. I think possibly, I'm not blaming anyone for this, because I think sometimes with different things happening, people took their eye off the ball, and took a while before we get it fixed. And even up to just before the last elections, when we were thinking about going to local government elections again, when we had taken those bills to Parliament that are there, my understanding, it was on the request of the opposition that my predecessor, former president, agreed to put a hold on these bills in the National Assembly.
Why?
On their request. For whatever reason, I don't know.
Okay.
But it was not on our request to hold it back. Of course, since then, the composition of the National Assembly has changed a bit. And now they are changing many of the agreements that we had on many of the bills that exist in the National Assembly and coming out. Despite all of that, for instance, one of the areas that we think we can discuss and have compromise with is the question of the commission, the local government commission that is coming on stream now.
The compilation of that commission?
Where the opposition is trying to see if they can use that to hold on to power, to minimize the role of the Ministry of Local Government and so forth. So that is where that is. We are not against, in fact, let me just re-emphasize, we are the ones who brought back local government elections to Guyana. And the fact that we don't have local government elections now had nothing to do with the lack of will on our part to have these local government elections. We wanted to have it like yesterday. And I know that it is badly needed in the society because many of the problems we have, I think, is due to the fact that we didn't have local government elections. However, as I said, again on their request we postponed it, and now we are trying to pass the bills, and hopefully we'll pass those bills. The opposition is showing, while they talk about transparency and compromise, they're showing a remarkable inflexibility on every issue that you want to deal with as far as compromise is concerned.
Would you be willing to tell us what some of those compromises are that they're unwilling to?
Well, this is one
make?
area where they have been changing. Although we had some agreed positions before the last elections. We had some agreed positions with them before the last elections.
Such as?
On many of these things, the question of the fiscal transfers and other things. We had many agreements. Now, in these new bills that they're trying to change. The details of it, I can always get those for you, but that is some of the main issues that we have with how they're trying to change many of the things that has already agreed on in order to probably flex their muscles, to seeking to want to control everything, etc.
Okay. Well, Mr. President, we'd like to thank you for your time and for taking the time out to explain these issues to the general public.
Okay,
thank you.